Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are back with another brand new Haolonggood release. Boy, do I ever get to say that a lot, because there are always so many Haolonggood figures coming out, one of the many reasons why I love this company. But as you can see, we've got the new Diabloceratops, and they're really hammering out some really sweet ceratopsians lately, definitely giving themselves a pretty good catalog of ceratopsians. And as you can see, yet again, we've got two different paint variants like we usually do. We really only need to take a look at one box because both boxes are going to be the same. You can see, of course, the fact that we have two boxes means that I have both paint variants here to take a look at. You can see that the scale is 1/35th. And then up here on the top, you can see numerous images of other ceratopsians that they have out currently. And then when you turn it around, it's pretty much the same thing, just a little bit different as far as the logos and stuff go. So let's pop these boxes open and check them out. So here are both different paint variants of our Diabloceratops. Let's go ahead and get just a little bit of a better angle and bring them in just a little bit closer. And I must say they are actually really, really nice. And not that I expected anything different, but from the original prototype images that they had shown off, I kind of felt like there was something missing, and it was like that dark wash that they've been applying to a lot of their figures. But actually having them here in person, the lack of a dark wash doesn't, look as off-putting as I was expecting it to. And in fact, it doesn't look off-putting at all. It actually looks absolutely fantastic when it comes to the colors of both. Really nice pose as well, giving them almost that kind of dueling look. So having two works really nicely. So without further ado, let's jump to a closer look and check them out from there. So we'll begin with the gray variant here, and honestly I would say probably my favorite variant. But you can see, looking at the head sculpt, that it looks really, really good. It looks like maybe there's a little paint chip possibly on mine, kind of right there at the tip of the beak, I just noticed. But again, looking at the head sculpt, you can see the detailing looks really good. There's definitely some nice looking skin texture, a bit of variation, and I love that as you move up there behind the eye, you get kind of like some bumpy scales that lead up into the frill of the ceratopsy. And you can see tons of variation of color, as you always have when it comes to any Haolonggood release. Their paint apps are some of the best in the business, and you can see you've got nice variations of like grayish tones, purplish tones, brown tones, just tons of variation of color for this one. You can even see almost like a slight dry brushing, it looks like, moving over the beak. The beak is painted with a black or a very dark gray and also has a bit of a satin shine to it. You can see the nostrils right there. You can also see like some black kind of spots and stuff here in the face. I really quite like this tone of color that circles around the eye. The eye paint isn't absolutely perfect, but it looks pretty good. It's just slightly sloppy. And interestingly enough, it's the first time in quite some time that I can recall, besides the Stegosaurus, where we don't have blue eyes. You can see we definitely have a different shade of color, but a nice gloss coat for the eyes. The horns are also nicely sculpted, and you can see some variation of color there as well, as you have blacks and browns leading out, almost like a slightly reddish brown. Looks like almost like they have a dark wash applied to the horns, but not the rest of the figure, which is intriguing. As you move up, same deal for the horns on the top of the frill, and you can see the frill sports some really nice coloration with like some purplish and bluish tones. Definitely makes that frill pop very realistically and also very naturally. You can see a different shade of blue over here on the side of the frill as well, and again the grayish tones moving up with more of that kind of spotting and stuff moving through pretty much the entire figure. As you move back into the neck, you can see some nice skin wrinkling and folding, especially because the ceratopsian has its head facing down a little bit, so you would see wrinkling especially down there in the neck and throat area. And then as you move up here into the back of the frill, wow, look at that really vibrant purplish tone back here. I was not prepared for that at all. That looks really cool. Definitely loving that, because it's not something you always see, would be like extra coloration on the back of the frill. That's one area that seems to often, kind of get neglected, I would say, when it comes to any sort of patterning or coloration. So it's nice to see Haolonggood is always paying attention to every aspect of their models. Moving back into the body, you can see we have some osteoderms that kind of lead through the course of the body. Also really nice, very fine scale detail. You've got this grayish tone that transitions to a purplish tone as you move up into the back, as well as a very dark gray or a black patterning that kind of squiggles and stripes down here into the side of the dinosaur. And then you can see more of that patterning, moving down and moving through the legs and stuff. Really smooth transition to this alternate tone of color in the stomach. And there's actually kind of like a light creamy color, and then it changes to to like an orangish brown as well, just adding even more variation of color. I like the positioning of the legs. As we can see, the ceratopsian is kind of moving with a little bit of speed, it looks like, as again it kind of has that look of a dueling version. And you can see how both legs on this side are closer together, wrinkling the skin of the stomach region, again as the dinosaur is picking up some speed coming in for that nice ramming of its horns. But you can see as we lead down, we transition to a different shade of color for the feet, almost like a reddish brown sort of a tone. You can see the elbow right there on the back of the front leg, some creasing in the joint of the elbow, nice muscle definition here in the thigh as well as some really nice skin wrinkles and folds and stuff as you move down into the knee and everything. Again, the muscle definition of the calf also looks nice. The transition from the grayish tones into the light tone of the back of the thigh and calf is also really smooth. You can see the toes are sculpted really quite beautifully, and of course the feet as a whole are sculpted nicely. We've got some paintwork there for the nails with a black tone of color, and then as you lead up, you've got a few more skin wrinkles back there, again showing that kind of pulling motion of the skin with the thigh. As you lead out, you've got a nice curve to the tail that kind of leads up out there at the end, and again some more of that striping effect leading out. As you move along the underside, you can see a cloaca present, and you can also see again ever so subtle differences of coloration here on the underside of the stomach of our ceratopsian. And then once you turn it around, you see pretty much the same thing over here, except for the fact that the legs are way further apart over here, again showing that kind of fast motion here for our ceratopsian moving in, giving you a much better look at the stomach, the detailing of the stomach, and the paintwork again with that nice orangish tone, but also just generally showing you again how beautiful the paintwork of Haolonggood is. Like, I am always so happy with the paintwork of any Haolonggood figure, and consistently impressed with how many really nice natural but very colorful color schemes they come up with. And then we have the other variant, which I would say you could look at as being a male as well, or maybe a female. I don't know, it's up to you, but again, maybe the fact that they're both kind of looking like they're dueling would make them both males. I'm not sure. But as you lead down, you can see, again, the sculpt is going to be the same on this one as the first version. The only difference would be the coloration. And this one, just like the first version, has lots of color added to it, as you have nice variations of browns, kind of like yellowish browns, off-whites, even a little bit of a pinkish tone there moving along the lower part of the lower jaw. You can see a brown tone for the beak of the dinosaur. And then as you move up into the horns, you start out with a dark tone, but then transition to a really nice kind of a light brown that continues to lighten as you lead out toward the tips. There's also some really impressive detailing within the horn. Kind of see it right there. You can see the paintwork of the eye is a little bit sloppy, just like the other one, shockingly, but there's a nice gloss coat yet again. And we do have a yellow eye, again, different to see the coloration of a ceratopsian, or any dinosaur, honestly, from Haolonggood being blue. It's a little bit strange. But as you lead up here, you can see a really cool greenish tone on the side of the frill, and then you lead up into the center of the frill, and you can see a mixture of like bluish tones and off-whites, as well as some black spotting and patterning through. Same type of paintwork for the horns up here on the top of the frill, and again you see pretty much the same thing over here. A little variation of color there around the eye socket area. The eye is painted much nicer over here on this side, but again, the overall color scheme is very similar to what we saw in the first version, just different tones of color for it. So as you lead back here to the back of the frill, on the other one we saw a nice vibrant purple. This one we see more of like a brownish tone, and you can see they've even applied some of the black kind of spotting and patterning on the back of the frill as well. As you move through the body, you see that same similar style of striping moving through. You can also see that brown follow along the spinal column, and then you have this really cool tone of like a yellowish green. I can kind of see elements of yellows in it, but also elements of greens. Like you can really see the greens here in the thigh. I really am a huge fan of that tone of color, actually, which is why initially I thought for sure I liked the gray and purple one the best, but I don't know, honestly. Like, the colors of this one are just absolutely beautiful to my eye, personally. Like, I am very much so a big fan of that tone used. But as you move down, you can see, again, a nice smooth transition to a lighter tone in the stomach. We also still have that kind of like orangish or pinkish sort of tone there in the stomach region. And again, we return to a lighter tone down on the underside of the dinosaur. Just like we saw in the other one, we transition to, actually, it looks like the same kind of like reddish sort of brown tone, maybe even more like a purplish brown tone that you see down there in the feet for the figure. You can see again The nails painted with a nice glossy black, the patterning moving down through the course of the thigh, and then you lead out here into the tail. And again, we just continue to have that patterning moving out, and then you have a black tip for the tail, just like we saw on the other one. Again, you're going to see pretty much the same thing over here on the other side. Just like with the other one, absolutely phenomenal paintwork on something so small. Haolonggood continues to absolutely blow my mind with how good their figures are. As far as a size goes, for a length from, I would say the horn is probably the furthest point to the tail, about 4 3/4 inches or around 11 centimeters. And then actually, let me make sure that was 11 centimeters. Or was it 12? No, that's 12 centimeters. My apologies. So about 12 centimeters. And then for a height, you are looking at right around, as far as this horn goes, at about 2.5 inches or 6.5 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collect Day Human Being next to our Haolonggood Diabloceratops, showing you that they are really quite small. And then as far as other comparisons go, I feel like some of the best I could give you would be in comparison to other Haolonggood ceratopsians. So we have the Nasutoceratops, which you can see is definitely a good bit larger. Then we've got the Cosmoceratops, which is also larger, but not by much. These two are actually very, very similar in size. As well as the Sinoceratops, which you can see is definitely a good bit larger than the Diabloceratops. And we've also got their Pachyrhinosaurus, which of course is going to be a good bit larger. And then for a few other completely random ceratopsians, we have the Papoineosaurus, which is a fairly recent release. The Mojo Fun Triceratops, which you can see very clearly is a good bit larger. And then one final comparison with a Captives supersized Triceratops, just to show you that the Diabloceratops is definitely even smaller than that. So showing you that this is absolutely a very small ceratopsian figure from Haolonggood. So these brand new Haolonggood 1/35th scale Diabloceratops figures are both absolutely gorgeous, honestly. They far exceeded my expectations, and I was, pretty hyped for them, but just somehow the paintwork looks extremely natural, even without the dark wash. Sometimes when they give us a figure that doesn't have the dark wash, I feel like something's just missing. It just doesn't look as lifelike or as realistic as it could with the dark wash. But again, this time, it looks great. Everything on both of these looks super nicely done. The transitions are really smooth. The application of the paint is really smooth. The only areas of sloppiness that I can really see are the eyes on a few sides of them. Don't look that great, but the other eye, for some reason, always looks way better. I don't know why. But one side of each of them has a little bit of a wonky eye. And then my one has kind of a slight paint chip on the beak, but that's not like a paint mishap of sloppiness or anything. It's just something that might have happened, when the figure is being created or in transit. But, really nice paint applications, really nice paint schemes, very natural, but still flashy like Haolonggood always produces. The sculpts are both gorgeous, really highly detailed, easily and far and away two of the best Diabloceratops figures that I have ever seen and probably will ever see. And the fact that they kind of have a nice look like they're dueling or maybe even just charging in to protect babies or something from some sort of a predator, but the fact that they have a nice dueling look and if you grab both of them allows you to pose them really nicely where they display so cool together. So I'm a big fan of that as well. Like I said, absolutely awesome. If you are interested in picking these up and adding them to your collection, I will include a link in the description to where I did so on Lana Time Shop, so make sure you check that link. Go grab both of these and comment and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.